Hey everybody, and a warm welcome to a new story. Today's story is called 10 Years Ago I Survived an Airplane Crash. What I saw there scarred me for the rest of my life. Day 3 inches. From the Reddit NOSLEEP subreddit. I hope you like it and will enjoy the time. If you like my content and this kind of videos, please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. As always, this story is told from the original writer's point of view. The link is down below in the description. Enjoy it. On the early morning of day 3, the chirping of the birds returned. That's how we knew that it was safe to go back outside. Despite that, we were still extremely paranoid when going out, and so we carefully observed the surroundings first. Okay, I think it's gone, Mitch shouted to the rest of us. We followed him outside. Mitch turned to me with heavy bags under his eyes and asked, "Sam, what the FCK was that thing? I saw it a few times by now, but I never managed to get a good look at it." I shook my head. "Will, did you see it?" Mitch turned to Will. "I didn't even see what happened to Norton until I heard the screams," Will said. We stood in silence for a while. "We can't stay here anymore," Linda said. "Well, we can't go wandering around the woods with that thing stalking us there. We'll be sitting ducks," Mitch responded. "So what then?" Amber interjected. I looked around and thought for a moment. I knew what the right thing to do was, but I hated the idea every bit anyway. "We have to rescue Norton," I finally said. "We can't leave him behind." "Whoa, now." Mitch raised his hand. "I didn't see it very well, but that creature looked pretty King dangerous to me. We can't go against it. Not to mention how fast it is." Norton's screams were here one moment and then, Will said, "I think we're gonna be safe if we bring torches." I said, "The creature, whatever it is, stalked me from afar yesterday morning and it was in our camp the night before. But it never approached while there was fire. And when I pointed my flashlight at it, it scurried away with the body of the passenger. It's a long shot, but it's worth a try." "Okay, but how the hell do we find Norton? He could be anywhere. For all we know, he could be dead." I pointed to the pile of dead bodies and said, "Last night it dragged another body away. It's always dragging them in the same direction. I think it might have a lair. If we follow the tracks, we might find it." "Again, did you see how fast it is?" Will said. "It could take us days to find it. If we even find it. Well, while it's alive, none of us are safe here," I said. "We got enough water, but food will run out soon. We have to start thinking of alternatives." "The creature probably needs water, right?" Amber asked. "There may be a creek nearby, and if there is, following it will get us out of the woods." We spent some time discussing it. And in the end we came to the conclusion that we would make some torches. Stock up on food and follow its trail. We packed everything useful and made torches by cutting a few branches and wrapping them in cloth. We had no oil or fuel to make the flames last longer. So we figured we'd just need the torches to last us long enough to ward off the beast, should we come face to face with it. The thought of angering that filled me with unspeakable fear. But also defiant satisfaction. One way or another, this would all be over soon. We inspected the place where Norton had been kidnapped. And it quickly became apparent that the tracks where he had been dragged on the ground were either clear of leaves or there was an obvious sign of leaves being flattened in places. If we wait too long and more leaves fall, we'll lose the trail. "We have to go now," Will said as he picked up one leaf, inspecting it curiously. The rest of us agreed and we let Will take lead, since he seemed to have the best eye in figuring where to go whenever we lost the trail. Only a few hundred yards away we saw two tracks merging into one. And it didn't take us long to figure that one was from Norton. And the other from the body the creature dragged off last night. It made it all the more easy for us, since the trail became a lot clearer. It also fortified Amber's theory that it had a lair, since the creature seemed to always move on the same path. We walked for about 30 minutes before we saw a blue piece of fabric on a nearby log. Will quickly bent down to inspect it. "I think this is Norton's," he said. He was wearing blue pants. "This isn't good." "Why not?" Linda asked. "I think there's blood on it." He raised the fabric for everyone to see. Linda gasped and Mitch inhaled through his teeth. Don't worry, it doesn't look like he was injured badly. But we better hurry. Well said. We went on for an hour before running into something completely unexpected off-trail. A big piece of metal. We looked past it and saw more tiny pieces scattered around. Look. Mitch pointed at a tiny clearing and then the rest of us saw it, too. What was left of the pilot's cockpit was woefully sitting in the clearing, partially facing down with its nose. There might be something we could use there, I said. We approached the cockpit and immediately saw the body of one of the pilots. He was sitting in a chair in front of the cracked windshield, head slumped backwards. His abdomen was covered in blood, but we weren't sure whether the crash or something else killed him. Mitch saw an open first aid kit and although some of the contents were used up, we took it just to be on the safe side. I glanced to the floor and saw a small device that looked like an MP3 player of sorts next to a flare gun. I knelt down and reached out to it, when a freezing hand grabbed my wrist. I looked up at the pilot, who previously had his eyes shut and now stared at me wide-eyed. You have to run. He spoke with a trembling voice. Get out of here before it returns. I pulled back in horror, pulling the pilot off the chair along with me. He stumbled down like a rag doll and ceased moving altogether. Oh my God. Linda clasped her mouth with her hands. Mitch approached the pilot and checked his pulse. He's dead, he said, confused. I picked up the flare gun and device which were on the ground. The gun had a round in it, so I put it in my pocket and pressed the play button on the device. A voice started speaking through the device. This is Captain Miles. Our plane crashed less than an hour ago. My co-pilot and I are miraculously alive, but we don't know where the passengers are. Since the plane broke into pieces, we still don't know what went wrong. We contacted control, but there was no response. We'll stay here and wait for rescue. We don't have much food or water left, so we'll make do with what we have. There was a pause before the voice started speaking again. This is Captain Miles. 10 hours have passed since the crash. We saw someone moving in the distance a while ago, but whoever it was, they ran away. If we're lucky, it's one of the locals and we aren't far from civilization. Another pause. And then, this is Captain Miles. It's been roughly a day since the crash. We keep seeing someone in the distance, always hiding behind trees. Whenever we shout for the person and ask for help, they run away. My co-pilot says it's a bear, since he got a closer look. Just in case, we're keeping our flare gun close by and we'll continue having a campfire to stave off any potential predators. Short pause and then the captain's panting was heard. He said in a panic. Holy SHT. This is Captain Miles. That was no FC King Bear. I didn't manage to get a good look at it. But when I heard my co-pilot screaming, I turned around and saw him getting dragged away by this hairy FC King thing. I tried to follow them, but it was so damn fast and it's dark. I had to go back to the cockpit. I'm staying here until morning and then I'm getting the FCK out of here. Another pause, this time longer. I thought the recording was over, but then Miles continued. This is Captain Miles. I tried running away, but this thing keeps toying with me. Wherever I go, it's there, just peeking behind the trees, pretending to hide. But I think it wanted me to see it. It knew what it was doing, because by noon I had taken so many reroutes that I was back at the plane and the creature was gone. I'll have to stay here and defend myself if it attacks. Another pause before Miles' shallow panting could be heard again. He said. It got me. It FC King got me. But I managed to wound it before it could finish me off. Shot 2 flares and managed to take a few of its fingers with the first one. The second flare only scared it away. It seems to be afraid of unnatural lights and fire. This thing is really smart. It scouts during the day and attacks during the night. There was a growl from the recorder. Linda cradled her arms, looking over her shoulder, as if she expected the creature to appear right then behind her. The pilot continued. It's close now, watching me. I can see it just beyond the fire. It won't come close as long as the fire's going. But I'm almost out of wood. I hope it can last until morning, but if it doesn't, I have one more flare remaining. I may not kill it, but I sure as hell will do a number on it before it takes me. If anyone finds this, don't wait for rescue. Kill the creature. Don't try running away, because it will always follow. It knows this forest better than anything living in it. As for me, I'm not gonna survive my wounds either way. Captain Miles out. The recording stopped. We listened in silence and horror. Jesus Christ. Mitch said with a trembling voice. Well, that does it. I said, we have to kill it. Did you even hear what the pilot said? Mitch snapped. He fired a FC King flare at it and it's still alive. Yeah, but we can't leave until it's dead. Don't you get it? It will never let us leave the forest alive. So it's either it or us. I am not going to fight with that thing headfirst. All we have this FC King hatchet and there's no way. Wait. Will raised his hand and interrupted Mitch. Where's Amber? We shot around and gave Linda, who was standing at the back, an accusatory look. She was here just a moment ago. She said. Amber. Where are you? Will shouted. And then we all saw it and it made our hearts sink to the floor. Blood. A trail of blood went along the clearing and into the tree line. Oh God, we have go find her. Linda said. Mitch took point and started following the trail, calling Amber's name along the way. It was evident that she lost a lot of blood and was in the best case scenario badly wounded. The trail of blood started to thin out pretty soon, but since it merged with the tracks we followed prior to that, it wasn't very difficult to stay on the right path. How the FCK could you let this happen, Linda? Mitch shouted in frustration. Why are you blaming me for this? Linda defended herself. You stood closest to her. Mitch rebutted. Mitch, back off. It wasn't her fault. I said. We continued striding in silence. Guys, wait up. Will shouted from the back, barely able to keep up with Mitch, who was practically jogging now. Come on, we have to hurry. Mitch shouted back before stopping dead in his tracks, making me bump into him. What the hell, Mitch? I shouted. And then I realized why he stopped. In front of us was a cliff and carved into it was a narrow passage into a cave. The passage itself was obscured by branches, so it could easily be missed, even walking next to it. The tracks of blood led inside and disappeared in the darkness of the cave. This must be the lair. Mitch muttered and turned to the rest of us. Are you guys ready? No one responded. Mitch whipped out his lighter and lit his own torch and then ours and went in without a moment of hesitation. I remember watching him and his flame get consumed by the darkness and admiring him, wondering if he was courageous or just foolish. The rest of us followed and what I expected would be a small cave turned out to be a complex combination of tunnel after tunnel. The passages were barely wide enough for even one of us to go through, so we went in a row, Mitch in front, then Will, then me and then Linda. Oh, Jesus. Mitch stopped again and looked at a particular spot on the ground. What is it? I asked. He simply continued walking and said, Come on, let's move. As I walked past what he was looking at on the ground, my torch illuminated enough for me to realize that I was looking at a human hand. A feminine, blood-curdling scream suddenly came from the cave, somewhere in the distance. Amber. Mitch shouted again and started running. I followed him and Will closely behind, clutching the torch in one hand and flare gun in the other. The screams continued as if someone was being flayed alive, but it was impossible to tell which direction they were coming from. Mitch and Will rounded the corner and their flames disappeared out of sight, so I hurried after them, yelling at them to slow down. The ground was uneven and slippery and I could barely see in front of myself. Another scream echoed. I turned around and realized that Linda was gone. Linda? Are you there? I asked, but no response came through. There was a low growl coming from the darkness in front of me, reverberating on the walls all around me. I started running back in the direction of Mitch and Will, completely forgetting about the flare gun in my panicked state. I couldn't see where my companion's torch flames were and when I reached a forking in the passages I panicked even more. With the inhuman scream following closely behind me I rushed to the left, now full on sprinting unsteadily. I kept losing balance due to the uneven ground, but I kept running for dear life, not caring where I was going. I just wanted to be as far away from that creature as possible. And then I felt the ground disappear from beneath my feet and I stumbled forward, falling down somewhere and hitting my head. Everything went dark after that. If you liked the story and the content, please leave a like, subscribe and share this video. Also have a look into my playlist for more entertaining stories. Thank you and have a nice day.